You are listening to Waffle, the bite-sized podcast with Paul Jenkins. First broadcast on Rossendale Radio on the 30th of August 2020. This week's episode was recorded at Salford's open mic night, Punk in Drublic. We get to hear comedy from the likes of Harriet, Dyer and Preston, as well as poetry from Rebecca Roy, Thick Richard, and a moving segment from Reece Williams.
104.7 Rossendale Radio.
Well, we thought it would never happen. We thought we would never ever leave the house again. We thought we'd be stuck in, and the only way we'd ever interact with anybody was through a screen. Well, at least that was what we were thinking, probably in around about the middle of April when we were getting really desperate. But a few people have decided, you know what, actually, it's time to put our toe back in the water. It's time to try things out and see if we can live in a different kind of way, but in the way that we enjoy. And last night I had the most pleasurable experience. It was brilliant. I saw other people again and I wasn't frightened of them. I went out and we went to Punk in Drublic. Punk in Drublic is, of course, the award-winning spoken word show that runs in Manchester. It was in Salford this time, and we went to a brewery last night, and despite I drove to the brewery and I drove back from the brewery and didn't have a drink. It turns out that you don't need to have one of those in a brewery. You can just have a really nice evening of entertainment. I thought it only best that we should document this momentous sea change in cultural history up here in the Northwest. So what you're about to hear is a selection of either interviews with people that were involved last night, or a little bit of a snapshot of their performances as well. If you go on the Facebook page, there's links to a lot of the performers from last night, so please do go and check them out. But this was my experience last night of Punk in Drublic. Welcome to 104.7 Rossendale Radio. It's Paul Jenkins here with the Weekend Wind Down. It's time for the Waffle segment. And as you can probably hear from my voice, we are out and about today. Yes, I know it sounds strange, but we're actually out and about. We haven't been out and about for a very, very long time because there's been nothing to go to. And it turns out that actually life is beginning to not roar back into action, but very, very timidly start to see the flickers of flames of excitement. I'm here in Salford, and I'm coming to the Marble Beers Brewery, and this evening you can hear in the background, as I get a little bit closer, you can hear music playing. You can hear people chatting. People are starting to gather. They're not gathering very closely together, but they're gathering together because we are actually here at an event. It's time for Punk in Drublic, one of the best, definitely one of the best spoken word evenings in the Northwest. We know this. It's recently won a Saboteur Award, and we spoke earlier in the year to their organiser, Robert Stevenson. He's going to be hosting this evening, and you're going to be hearing from him in just a little while. But I thought I'd take a moment just to kind of guide you through, because when we get here, this is a brand new experience for us. You get here, and as you come to the show, there's COVID-19 guidelines. Very first thing as you meet people. As we arrived, it's a very simple one-way system to be able to go through. We had our temperatures checked. We've signed in and done the test and trace. But then as you get in closer to this al fresco performance that we're going to see this evening, you can hear that there's plenty going on. We've got 3 comedy acts this evening, 3 poetry acts as well. It's going to be an absolutely cracking evening, and we're going to bring you the very best of it.
Distinguished guests, friends, comrades, any animals or pets, subs, doms, switches, everyone here in attendance at the marvellous Punk in Drublic Poetry at the Marble Brewery. Let's have a round of applause. Comedy is back. We've been able to put it together somehow. Thank you all so much for coming down. You all look lovely. Friends, I shall waste no further time in bringing on the incredible, the inimitable Harriet Dyer.
Just that? Yeah, brilliant. Right, I don't know, I'm touching myself, that's strange. So lonely, hello. I'm gonna exit the gazebo, I feel a bit trapped in it. Thanks for having me, lovely this is, and quite clever I am. Just started because I just passed my driving test, so fuck, will I say that? It was a year ago, but I've still got my P plates on. I'm on my 4th P plates. I keep thinking that I'm hitting barn owls when I'm driving, but it's the P plates flying because barn owls quite square heads.
So here we are, we're backstage now at Pumpkin Drublic, and I've got Harriet Dyer with me. Harriet, how was that feeling coming back?
Oh, it was lovely, thank you. I've done it, I think it's my 3rd gig back now, or maybe 4th, but it was lovely. I can't say Drunken Drublic.
I know. Pumpkin Drublic.
I find it really difficult to say.
It's kind of nice that they give you some sort of, nice quiz for you to sit down and try and work out in the first place.
Yeah.
I noticed you in your set, you talked about doing loads of Zoom performances and stuff like that. I mean, the comedians, you must love doing those.
Oh my God. It's just so destroying because you just, and especially because I think most comedians do sort of really feed off how the audience are. So when they're just not doing anything, and often you can't see them, and then I found as well they give you weird. Like one was a mental health corporate, so they wanted all stuff about mental health, but they wanted me to tie in about the owner of the company's cat. Which is obviously a massive, an easy leap to make for a cat anyway. So I was trying to do that, but then I realised that in doing that I totally shot myself in the foot because it was like too much of a gear shift.
Yeah.
So then they were like, oh yeah, pets, and then let's talk about my mental health, and then everyone was just like, oh God. So it was just, I'm just very glad to be back, and it's interesting because back in the day, like outdoor gigs, we'd be hesitant about, but now it will take anything.
It's brilliant. It's kind of got a weird festival vibe, but actually it's kind of it's some semblance of, I hate using the word normal because everyone's going for new normal at the moment, but it does feel, it feels nice and new, doesn't it?
And I think as well because it's not because it's like, what's it called, where it's like a destination, isn't it? So you have to come here to be here, whereas sometimes gigs when a lot of the passers-by don't really know what's happening, and then it's just it's difficult, whereas here everyone's come specifically for this. It's lovely. Thank God it's not raining though.
Indeed. Well, I was going to say, to set this scene at home for radio, we're all kind of camped out under parasols at the moment, but luckily the rain's staying clear.
Yeah, because I did a gig the other day where it was in the garden but it was raining, so it was just, and I was thinking, is anyone going to get electrocuted?
That's well, it'd certainly spice the evening up, wouldn't it? It'd give you some new material for the future.
Well, unless I'm the one that gets electrocuted, and then there's no new material, but then there's material for the other acts.
Exactly, we'll carry the baton for you. Harriet Dyer, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
A dear friend of mine, you're going to absolutely love him. Let's raise the parasols for the marvellous Mr. Ash Preston!
Hello everyone, nice to see you. This is a very strange thing, isn't it? I didn't think my return to stand-up would be an industrial park in Weast, but there you go. I feel like it feels like less like a gig, more like I'm going to start doing like a car auction. Thank you for coming. Let's bring on our first act. A lovely 1980 Ford Capri. But we'll see what happens here. I'm going to do some jokes for you. Quite high concept, that. Some of you might find them funny, some of you might not, which is also broadly fine. And if you don't find it funny, what you can do is look at each other afterwards and go, you know what, that lady with the beard that won Eurovision. That isolation really took its toll on her, didn't it? So hello, my name is Ash Preston, 3-time Northwest Regional semi-finalist of the Charles Manson lookalike competition. And he died not long ago, which means this year's competition got it in the bag, madam. There we go.
So we're backstage with Ash Preston. You've just come off stage. Was this the first gig back?
This is my first gig back since March the 14th of this year. So
quite a break, isn't it? I know we're always worried about having enforced breaks, but this is that must be quite a while. Did you get your rhythm back quick?
Yeah, it was more a case of just I wasn't going to try anything really new here. It was more a case of just do your set, get the rust off, find out where the beats and the rhythm of the material flows and everything, get your timing back. Because obviously now we're picking up a lot more with booking, so it's nice to have this one, because I think next week I've got like a 25-minute set where I'm like headlining, so I'm like, oh right, okay, let's remember how to be funny, because I think I still remember vaguely. But there was little. It was more just a case of finding how's it work again. It's very strange.
It is strange, and this is a different setup as well. This is not quite festival because people are miles away, but they're close enough to laugh, and you can hear.
It is. It's like learning to ride a bike, but in your living room. You know what I mean? It's very. It's cautious.
It is.
And is this a good idea?
Well, yeah. I mean, how did you feel about the kind of like coming about? I love the way that you talked about being BC before COVID, and this is now. This is now post-COVID. We're not post. We're right in the middle of it.
We're AC after COVID.
There will be an AC. There's going to be a middle bit now.
Yeah, we're in purgatory COVID.
That's it. So how did you feel about the material though? Did you want? It's like, do I talk about it? Is it the elephant in the outdoor room that we're in?
I actually think you can get away with it as long as you don't really I'm not a political comic, so I always think that if you can just make something silly out of it, then that's absolutely fine. I can't talk about how I related to it on the time the show goes out. So I spoke about something that is after the watershed, involving adults and free time.
Exactly.
It's like, and it just if you connect it to something kind of silly, and the audience can just laugh about the futility and sort of obtuse daftness of it all in a weird way.
Yeah.
If you can warp it, then I think the audience are just quite relaxed with it. I don't think people want to hear people just banging on about the government and stuff. Which is fine. We can all criticise it. But you see so much and hear so much constantly that you come to a comedy show to be like, oh, they're going to talk about this. Oh, they're talking about it in a weird way. And it's that kind of thing. I think you can talk about and joke about anything as long as you approach it in a in a really good way and you're writing spot on and you just do something different.
Well, actually, we were probably out of practice as an audience as well. And I think you kind of felt the mood immediately lift with everybody going, oh, wow, we can laugh again.
Yes.
This is wonderful. And it was really nice to have that sharing moment.
I mean, it's just nice seeing people laughing at the jokes and just not at me. It's a delightful feeling, But it is nice to do it again, and it is just nice to kind of feel it again, because prior to this, obviously, like March this year, I think out half the month I was out doing gigs, and then that obviously I did like a tour of Amsterdam and stuff, and I came back. And then it all went wrong here. Yeah. So when I was over there, I was watching what was going on. And I was like, well, everyone's buying a lot of toilet roll. Like, what's this silliness about?
That's a lot of material, but at the same time...
And then came back and then found out, oh, this is all very serious. And then all my bookings disappeared, and I had a bit of a cry, and then we all kind of wondered what was going to happen to the industry. And we still don't really know, but it's kind of, it's creeping back, and I always think that live comedy will in some way be a thing. I mean, at the moment... We're back when we were a thriving live industry. At the moment, we're sort of like the French Resistance. We're turning up in here and there doing shows and then disappearing by night. And
I've never yet seen. This is my first time ever I've seen a comedy gig while I'm also looking at the back lot of a car lot. Which is very nice indeed.
It's a very strange feeling, but it's very nice to be doing it again. It's really quite euphoric.
On that note, we're coming up to a music break on the show,
lovely stuff.
And you've picked a song for us. What have you gone for?
I've gone with a song that a lot of people find quite irritating, but I love it. It's Young at Heart by the Bluebells, which contains my favourite violin solo of all time.
Actually, I was going to say, I completely forgot the violin solo.
It's Bobby Valentino,
That's a beautiful thing. Right, well, here we go. This Young at Heart, the Bluebells.
Playing more of the songs you like. This is 104.7 Rossendale Radio.
And so welcome back. You join us for part 2 of our special where we went to visit Punk in Drublic in Salford last night, and our next performer up is introduced by Robert Stevenson himself, but our next performer is the amazing Thick Richard.
He is marvellous, he is wonderful. Ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, those somewhere else on the gender spectrum, friends, comrades and any animals or pets, Mr. Thick Richard!
Miss you too.
Ladies and gentlemen, babies and pensioners, leavers, remainers and illegal aliens, shipwrecked sailors, the Windrush generations and the flag-waving crackpot patriots. Ladies and gentlemen, the woken awakening, the broken recovering and the coming undone. The stuttering bigot with the head stuck in a bucket and the breathless dead handcuffed in the gutter and the Xbox stealers, all the arms dealers and every dead baby to have washed up on the beaches. Ladies and gentlemen, and the jaded millennials who will not be labelled by the genitals, the masculine feminines with the pierced organs and a 2-foot back tattoo of Piers Morgan, and the straight-edge sensible, the occasionally crazy and the genuinely mental, the standard Karen and the snowflake gammon, standing up for everything that doesn't matter. Ladies and gentlemen, the few and the many, the haves, the have-nots, and the 1%, and anybody else I might have missed off the list. You, all your brothers and sisters, those that we've lost and those you might be missing, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Thick Richard. I've come to do some horrible, shouty, swearing poetry for you. Providing I remember words, because it's been about 7 months, but I hope you enjoy yourselves.
So it's post-gig now. I'm here with Thick Richard. You've just done an absolutely cracking set. How's that after 7 months?
It was a long wait. Yeah, it was. It was good. I got a lot off my chest.
I was going to say, have you been cursed by the wonders of Zoom poetry, or have you managed to avoid it?
I did a couple. It's weird watching, all those little squares clapping, but not being able to hear it and stuff. Yeah, I didn't really enjoy it myself. I prefer the more tactile gigs, really.
It is, and I think you managed to get the balance right, bearing in mind, I think your set sort of lends itself to the fact that people might be further away from you, because I think it's fair to say there's a fair bit of shouting in yours.
Yeah, there's a lot of vapour. Yeah, I'm not that COVID friendly, really, but to be honest, I'd rather they were a bit further away.
It's people, isn't it? We want to avoid them as much as we possibly can. It's a dream the last 6 months.
I've actually quite enjoyed it, to be honest. Yeah.
It's been wonderful. Do you think has it given you this chance to go away and write more? Have you felt like you wanted to write more, or is it just actually are people what you bounce off?
I've written a lot of stuff, but I've avoided the subject of the whole lockdown thing, because I don't think people really want to hear about the most universally boring thing that's ever occurred. Everyone's got their own experience, and it's exactly the same as everyone else's. So,
And you've got a new book coming out. Is it this year?
Yeah, it should be out in October. Read 'em and Weep, it's called. On Flapjack Press.
Right. Well, we'll keep an eye out for that, and hopefully we might be able to grab you on the podcast at some point or other once the book's out, and we can have a chat about it.
That'd be lovely. Yeah,
fantastic.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
The next poet I'm about to bring on has a CD as long as your arm. You're going to be utterly wowed by him. The marvellous Mr. Reece Williams!
It's all a bit mad, isn't it? How are we doing, guys? We okay? Yeah? I'm just going to talk before I read some poetry. Is that alright? Because it's the first time I've seen more than 11 people in 14 years or something like that. The last time I saw other people that weren't in my family, I had hair. We watched A Message from the King, and beautiful film. And I woke up this morning to the news that he'd passed away. Black Panther film alone, I genuinely believe, changed the world and changed the way that young black people in particular see the world and see their possibilities. And there's a poem that I wrote probably about 7 years ago now, and it's called The Icons Are Dead. It's about our fascination with celebrity, and every time somebody significant passes, I add a name to the roll call at the start of this poem, and it felt really fitting when I heard the news that I wanted to finish the set with this poem. So this is The Icons Are Dead. This is a poem for Diana, for Tupac, for Shabazz, for Winehouse, for MJ, for Mandela, for Marley, for Elvis, for Biggie, for Pryor, Richard and Sean, for Cobain, for Aretha, for Prodigy, for Avicii, for X, for Mac Miller, and this is a poem for Chadwick Boseman.
Woo! Yeah!
Like moonwalking feet are quick enough to outrun destiny. Like an artist's arms are long enough to box with God. Like the paparazzi lens can taint the clearest of memories. Like an icon simply dies after their breath is gone. This path we trod is finite. Like wisdom is the daughter of hindsight. And in our quest to remember celebs at their best, we forget their success ain't defined by the limelight.
Okay, so we're out front with Reece Williams. He's just done an absolutely cracking set for us.
Nice one.
How is it to be back in front of people again?
Oh, it's lovely. It feels like this day would never come. Do you know what I mean? When you've been on quarantine and basically told the culture sector doesn't exist for the past 7 months or however long it's been. It feels just nice to be back and doing things and with real people I've not met before. Yeah, it's been great.
It's just wonderful, and your set had some real highs and lows in terms of emotions. I mean, you started off, you had us in the palm of your hand to start with. You started with a bit of comedy. Is that something you kind of try and get into your work?
Definitely. So, I mean, in an average set that I do, I always try and make people laugh. I try and make them feel. I try and make them think. They're the kind of 3 markers that I kind of try and hit.
Yeah.
And I think being here at Punkin Drublic kind of brought that part of me out. Do you know what I mean? It's all about, I guess, having a laugh and enjoying yourself. So I thought, at least if everything else that I do is quite heavy hitting, let's start with a laugh, and then we can
Yeah, I mean, you went from jokes about your haircuts, and then you finished with some amazing work. A tribute to Chadwick Boseman, who sadly passed this morning. I mean, what is it about some of these sort of icons you mentioned in that last poem of yours?
I think what it is, seeing people, when we think about celebrities, seeing people with a particular ability, whether that be a musician who's able to move you or able to articulate your feelings in a song, in a way that kind of travels with you through your life. And I guess in the case of Chadwick Boseman, for me, seeing myself represented on TV and on the big screen, seeing young black men, young children imagine themselves as superheroes is unheard of. It's revolutionary, it's life changing. So when that news came through, I said I have to do this poem to celebrate him, really, to remember him, and to find a way just to say, look, we're going to miss you, basically.
It was, and he joins an illustrious list of that and that poem that you shared with us. So we're coming up to a music break on the show now, and is there any particular songs that you'd like us to play out for this particular section of the show?
Yeah, I'd love it if you can play the song by Kojey Radical and Harriet, which is called The Waters. Amazing song.
The Waters, right, which I've never heard before. Why are you going for that one?
So, I mean, Kojey Radical is a poet and a rapper, so he started off as a poet. His early stuff was straight spoken word. Fantastic. And now he's also an amazing musician, and I think there's a really powerful message in that particular song. And also Mahalia is an amazing songwriter and vocalist too, so yeah, it's a combination made in heaven.
Brilliant stuff. It's Kojey Radical.
At home, in the office, in the car, wherever you are, you can listen to 104.7 Rossendale Radio.
So you're listening to our Out and About special, where we went to Punkin Drublic in Salford just last night, and of course we had to go and get the reaction from the audience. So we're out here with the general public. Hello there. How are you enjoying the show this evening?
Oh, it's been amazing. It's just good to be with people again.
Good to be out.
It's just nice to be outside of 4 walls, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's very smooth, and it feels good to be back at a live gig. I've missed this.
It's absolutely beautiful, man. The words are all beautiful, but the cold air and a bit of moonlight behind them does do it a good job.
So, Robert Stevenson, you've managed to do the impossible. We didn't think we'd ever see a gig ever again, and here we are, standing in a car park in Salford, and we've just finished. People are disappearing with smiling faces. Yeah. You've raised 400 quid for Mustard Tree. How does that feel?
Well, overwhelming, really, really does. Like, just putting it all into context, given everything that we've been through over the past 6 months, like the logistics behind it all. There've been some people here who've really, really helped out, and I'm so grateful for it. But to be able to do it in a safe way, which I think that we have been able to do, has just been a joy. So I'm really chuffed about it. Yeah.
I don't mind telling you, I was nervous about coming out. It's the first time we've been to a gig or anything like it in 7 months, and we've got it. And within 10 minutes, absolutely felt it was, the new world is a beautiful world.
It is, and there's so much thought that's got to go into it, but it's possible, and that's what's encouraging. And I think it's safe to say that we've all missed the camaraderie and the community of the poetry scene and the comedy scene. Like an estranged child, I think we haven't, it's a joy to be back. It so much is, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for everything you've done this evening, and we'll keep an eye. It's 15th of October is the next Punkin Drublic gig
with bells on. Yeah, Lock 91.
Excellent. We'll get everybody down to Manchester.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Paul. Cheers.
Friends, as we did with the act in the first section, let's please greet every act in this section on with a rapturous round of applause. The wonderful, the fantastic Miss Rebecca Roy!
So you had a brilliant set of comedy, and you had brilliant poetry from Rob, and you're going to have some really depressing poetry from me now, so I hope you're ready for that. So this first poem I wrote about a visit I had this summer to hospital, unfortunately, to see my nan. She had a really bad stroke during lockdown. So this poem is called Sunflower, and it's for Tony. The first time I visit Nan's house after her stroke. I am almost beheaded by a sunflower. They lean monstrously large as triffids across the garden door. She planted them in March.
So, Rebecca, how's that been? How is it getting back into the swing of things after, is it 7 months we were all talking about?
Yes, it was fantastic. I feel a bit giddy, actually. I felt a bit giddy just talking to people in public, but getting up and performing in front of everyone was just incredible. I had such a good time, and a massive thanks to Rob for putting it on.
I think just this idea of bringing people back together, even though we're outside, it feels completely different. But are those poems that you've shared previously at other gigs, or are these things you've written during lockdown maybe?
No, half the poems are poems I'd written during lockdown. One poem was a poem I wrote yesterday, and it felt incredible just to have the opportunity to perform it almost immediately after writing it, and I've had some amazing feedback from people. I kind of feel like I'm on a bit of a high.
You get that when you're coming off stage, and because it's that thing when you're writing, you've got how it makes you feel, but actually sharing that with other people. Have you been surprised by any of the reactions to?
I think I made 2 people cry, which I feel slightly guilty about, but not the poems I thought would make them cry, which was surprising. But no, I was quite worried because it's a poetry and comedy night, and there'd been an amazing comedy set, and my opening poem was about my nan who's had a really bad stroke over lockdown, and so I was quite worried that I was going to come on stage and kind of lower the mood and that people weren't going to be engaged with it, but everyone was just so on board, and I could feel the empathy rolling off the crowd.
It's been a really lovely evening. It's had so much. It's had a real richness to it of completely wild stuff and wild comedy and really thoughtful comedy and really thoughtful political stuff, but also really nice tender moments as well. I think it's been that particular set really brought it forward as well. Thank you.
I felt I was so appreciative for the audience. They seemed very much on my side, which I really appreciated, because I was really, really nervous. So no, but that's a testament to Rob and Punk and Drublic. It attracts a lovely group of people who are always open and understanding, and they've got a good sense of humour.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. We play music here on Rossendale Radio, and I've been told I have to insert music here. So as I'm talking to you, I think it's only right that you should possibly insert the music here. What should we go for?
I'm going to go for March by the Chicks, previously known as the Dixie Chicks, who have released an album over lockdown, and March is a song about protest, and it is beautiful and incredible. If you're not a fan of country music, give it a go and it will make you cry, I promise.
Wonderful choice. Here's the Chicks.
104.7 Rossendale Radio.
And there we go. Another Waffle, the bite-sized podcast, comes to a close. My thanks go to absolutely everybody that was involved in the Pumpkin Drublic evening. It was so nice to be back out there and talking to people, meeting new people, seeing acts performing, seeing people coming back, socialising together from a distance, safely, and in a completely different environment. But my goodness, it was absolutely brilliant to be back and to feel like we were all back. It's certainly given me new confidence to go out in front of audiences again. And I hope it's been the same for you, that it gives you the confidence to go back out and dip your toe back in and see if we can get some sort of semblance of reality back for ourselves. My thanks, as ever, go to everybody involved at Rossendale Radio for their time allowing us to broadcast on a Sunday afternoon, and of course to Melanie Kemp for all her work editing Waffle, the bite-sized podcast. We will see you next week.